Alex, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to have you on today. I got connected to you from our mutual friend, David Kitchen, who's been a guest on the show previously, and getting to listen to your episode that he had on his podcast, I knew I had to have you on. You are a former NFL player, you're a coach, you're a speaker, but it's also pretty cool that your sons are playing football as well. Your son Elijah is in the NFL, and what is it like getting to pass on that type of legacy to your children?
Well, first of all, Stu, thank you for having me on your show. I'm always, looking to, um, create relationships. And David Kitchen is a good dude. And
Mm-hmm.
when he, got us connected, said, "You guys need to connect." I was like, "Yes, sir. Let's go." But to answer your question, man, I think it's like anything else that when a dad or father does something and he's very passionate about, and it just happens to bring in income,
Mm-hmm.
and it gives you a platform as well. And if they see that and they say, I want that. I would love to get an inside track on what you do, right? So it doesn't
Yeah.
matter if you're a former professional athlete, if you're a doctor, if you're a lawyer or a veterinarian or whatever. I have friends that their parents did what they're doing, and
Mm-hmm.
they had an inside track because they they were around it, and they got to
Mm-hmm.
see the ups and downs about it, and then they have that relationship. And especially if they are curious about it, to ask questions about that and be like, yeah, I think I want to go about doing that. Now, with sports, you also have to be blessed with a certain amount of ability, athletic
Sure.
ability, you know. But it's pretty cool, man, to see, not just my son, who's playing in the NFL, and have another one who's he's in high school, but he's a gifted athlete. And to
Mm-hmm.
see him kind of like, asking these questions, the same ones that his big brother has asked. And, they're willing, because I tell them the character that it takes to be able to do something at that high of a level. And are
Mm-hmm.
you okay with that, to turning into this person? Because that person, the actions that they take has to be different than all
Mm-hmm.
your friends. All your
Mm-hmm.
friends want to do something. There's a certain amount of discipline. Are you okay with that? And if you say you are, I'm going to hold you accountable,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you tell me your dreams, your aspirations. So now they're extra, they're out in the world, and I'm going to hold you accountable to them. And if you don't, then that's fine. You just change your goals. Maybe it's not playing in the NFL, and that's totally fine. You know what I'm saying? Me and my wife, we have eight
Yeah.
kids. Not all of them play in the NFL, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But when they open up and they share like what they want to do, their aspirations, then okay, cool. I hold them accountable.
Yeah.
Me and my wife.
No, no, absolutely. I'm sure it's a team effort for sure, especially with
Yeah.
8 children.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, here's the follow-up I had. I mean, clearly you hit on it already. There has to be a level of talent there for a goal as big as making the NFL, playing in the NFL. But I feel like for a lot of kids in the position of your boys, like it'd be really easy to not put in the work because you did it for them. Maybe there are some advantages that they get to enjoy as a result of the path that you paved. How do you instill the work ethic? I know you're talking about accountability and discipline, but can you just drill down on that a bit further?
Yeah. Well, it first starts with, do they do they know the sport? Do they know whatever that is that they want? And if I don't know it, then the relationships that I have, I will lend them to them.
Mm-hmm.
So if someone wants to learn about sports marketing, I don't know about sports marketing, but I have relationships that I've built over the years. That's, some people that are in those positions that they love to, you know, for my kids to buy them a cup of coffee, and then they can ask them questions about, what is it like? What is the
Hmm.
good, the bad, and the ugly about it? And then, what does it take? Right? It comes down to, what does it take? First of all, you need to know, what do you want to achieve? Like,
Hmm.
what are your goals? And okay, what is the trying to build a roadmap, right? People have all these different roadmaps for their careers,
Hmm.
right? But very few people create a roadmap that's relational, like a relational
Ooh,
roadmap. Meaning,
yeah.
like, man, if I get to know this person at a certain level and they get to find out, some of the things about who I am, and they in their network, they know somebody, maybe they can introduce me to that person, and they get to know me, and I get to know them. They to, ask them questions about not just the job or whatever, but ask them about them and whatnot. And so you start to create these different roadmaps where, you know, next thing you know, you're in front of somebody who, timing, could be the right fit for you. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? And so
Hmm.
that's something that's there. I don't think people are very intentional about it, right? When
Yeah.
I when I first started dating my wife, I was a very shy cat, right? There's no way I was gonna go straight up to her, hey, what's up, baby? What's up? No, that wasn't me. I knew somebody who knew her friend, and then knew her. So I was like, oh man, you know what? Yeah, get to know her, not in a weird way, but just tell me more about Kristen. Blah, blah. And then word got back to her, right?
Hmm.
So it's relational roadmaps that, you need to be intentional about. And so I tell, with my kids is, you get to find out like the character that it takes to become, or to even like get a position or a role, like, because it takes a certain character. You have to change who you are to, to be that type of person in that role, in that job. And it might turns out that I don't want to be that type of person. I don't want to be just strictly
Yeah.
transactional, and no, that's not something that I want to do. And so they need to get ahead of it. They need to know about it. And so how you can do that is, you know, creating different relationships or utilizing them, and find out like what are the details of, not just the work that comes with it, but to be successful, what type of person do you need to become?
Yeah. Oh, there's so much to unpack in everything you just shared, Alex. And I'm so glad that you're on so we can dive in. So I love what you're saying about intentionality. And I also think what you said is important about not being transactional, like being authentic and building the relational roadmap. I've been in several positions historically in my work career and or even just at a networking event where there's kind of that weird energy of almost like people are trying to get from somebody else or trying a little bit too hard to be something they're not in order to stand out. What would your advice be to the people hearing what you're saying, thinking about the relationships as they're listening to this podcast, and how do they build a relational roadmap?
Well, number one, great question. But like networking events, I would say avoid them.
Okay.
Here's why. Because it's already set, like the environment is already in a transactional mode, right?
Got it.
And I used to live, now trust me, this is the version you see now. This is version 51, okay? Version number 22, 23 of Alex Molden was very transactional. If you couldn't do anything for me, I'm not doing anything for you. I'm not, no time, none of that.
Sure.
Okay, I was very transactional. Maybe it was like just who I was as a youngster. Maybe it was the fact that I played football, and a lot of people wanted time, and they wanted just to be able to, be connected with me so they can use my name, image, and likeness to up level
Sure.
who they are, whatever. So but it was very transactional. And then, one time where I saw it and it made me feel icky. It made me feel like,
Mm,
oh, hold up, that's me. I looked in the mirror and oh, I don't like how that,
mm-mm,
so now instead of things being transactional, I try to make things relational. And
mm-hmm,
we all have access to it. I just happen to have done it at a very high level.
mm-hmm.
But, and the reason why I was really good at the sport that I played, and, you know, only 3% of NFL players play 8 or more years.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I didn't think about that type of stuff, but only 3%, right? And it's not because of my size, not because of my speed, my athleticism, but it was my ability to be very intentional when it comes to practice.
Yeah.
So I know how much you can improve when you practice, intentional practice. When you want
Mm-hmm.
a specific something to get out of this one practice, I'm going to be drilled in on this. I know what that looks like. And so for me, when it was thrown my way, now, man, I'm all transactional. I don't want to be like that. I want to be more relational. So I practice. And so how I practice is any situation where I go into when it's transactional. I go to Starbucks. Okay, I go to Starbucks and I give them my money. Well, most people like give my money, boom, boom. There's no words exchanged. I
Right.
practice it. And then I gamify it, meaning this. I go up, yeah. Hey, first thing I say, how are you doing today? No matter how
Yeah.
I feel, no matter none of that stuff, the first words out of my mouth is not about, I want this, here's my money, how much. It's not about that. Hey, how are you doing? Right?
Yeah.
And you should see, and you can try it out, man. And for me, I go to the person, it's not maybe not all the time, it's the Starbucks, maybe it's the Subway, maybe it's whatever. But I
Sure.
go in out and I look and I see the person who looks the most like they don't want to be there in their
Yeah.
job.
Correct.
Like they don't want to be there. I said, I'm going to that person. Because that was a person I used to try to avoid.
Mm-hmm.
But now I go to that person and I even, I gamify it with myself or even my kids. I say, hey, come over here. Watch me. I bet you I can make her smile
I
or make
love
him smile or whatever.
that.
And I go there and I ask them about, their day. And I'm not trying to take up a whole bunch of time, but I'm just, hey, how are you doing? Man, it's crazy hot outside, huh? Man, it's busy in here. It's crazy. What you guys got? You got a sale or something? Right? And so I practice being relational, even in a transactional type of environment.
Yeah.
Last night I was coming home. Um, I was coming home from I had I'm coaching a cohort of this mid-sized company out in Utah. And
Wow.
so I make it out. It was just like a 90-minute session. So I was kind of in and out. And so I went there, coached them up on leadership development. They want better leaders. So I coached them up and give them foundational principles, right? And then I make it back to the airport. Man, I get there so early and then our flight is delayed. I'm like, man, okay. Well,
Yeah.
so I'm sending out some emails and I was like, man, let me go up in this little restaurant. Had a little bar section. The Lakers game was on, so I'm watching there. And then this lady, because I'm like, oh man, to myself, right? Like, oh man, he got a rebound, and she's watching, she's not watching the game, she's watching a show on her phone, right? And
Hmm.
then she looks up, she's like, who are you rooting for? I was like, oh, he said, do you want the Lakers to win? I said, no, really, I want New York to win.
Yeah.
She said, oh, and that kind of sparked a conversation. Stu, about 40 minutes later, we're exchanging emails and phone numbers. Comes to find out, like she works at this assisted living, memory care, right?
Yeah.
And and she wants me to possibly coach her or coach her team or train her team in leadership development.
I love that.
I don't think that would have happened at a networking event.
No.
When you start to like learn your superpowers and then you share it and you do it in a non-transactional way where it's just conversation. And it started off with us, she was a Laker person, really a LeBron. She loved LeBron because he starred in this movie that her husband and her watched, and it started
Mhm.
from there. But us just conversation, and man, all of a sudden, she's like, "Man, I love how you broke that down. Man, I need to. Can we exchange numbers? I would love to bring you in." I
Love
wasn't
that.
looking for anything. I was just conversating with this lady who was, we was watching basketball together. And those are available to us each and every day. The interactions that you have, I want people to understand this. Every day, you can inspire someone and you can be inspired. Every day I
Yes.
wake up, I want to inspire somebody. We don't know what people are going through. One conversation can change the trajectory of somebody's life.
Yes.
That's powerful when you really think about it. So I try to go through life, man, with intentionality. And, maybe you can do that at a networking event, maybe not, but I don't do those. I don't
Yeah.
I avoid those.
No, absolutely. And folks, what I feel like the through line here of what Alex just shared is that in the examples, he's allowing himself to shine through. He's allowing his character, his authenticity, who he is and what he's about to shine through versus, hi, I'm Alex, I do this, blah, 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 blah. Like the person is getting the opportunity to meet him, the person, create that connection, and then it becomes a conversation about who he is, what he has to offer, if it even goes there. And that I think is a beautiful way of breaking it down for everybody. Just something to piggyback off of all of that. You spoke earlier about character, like having character. How do you define that, and how is that relevant to pursuing goals, building businesses, anything the listeners are up to?
Great question. And this is something that um, is the number one influencer. When
Mm-hmm.
you start to when you start to understand what leadership is, and you don't put any fluffy words about it, leadership is influence. That's
Yes.
it. And we can influence people to follow us, or we can influence people to run away from us. Either way, it's leadership.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's all about being intentional about it. Right. And one of the influencers, especially for me, like that's number one. It didn't used to be like this. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
used to care about my character, which when you ask, like, what is it? Character is who you are.
Yeah.
I didn't
Amen.
really care about who I was. I was defined by what I did. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
football player,
Yeah.
right? Because everybody in this country elevates you, especially in that sport, right? It's the most
Yes.
popular sport in America. You get in football, oh, right?
You're up here.
But you're up here. No matter if you're a jerk, if you do horrible things at home, if you do, you're elevated. And so, and then now I look at it through my kids. It's great. We have some very athletic kids. We have kids who have gone on to have college paid for because of their athleticism and their ability in their sport. That does not come number one for me or my wife. That's great. It's great. We sit there and watch them. That's beautiful. I'm gonna clap and cheer. I look at the character, who they
Mm-hmm.
are. That matters more because I know, at some point, that ability in that sport, you're not going to be even LeBron. There's going to be a
Right.
point soon that he can't be able to jump and run and be as quick as he is. It's a wonderful thing. But there's going
Yeah.
to be a point where that's going to decline,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he's protected because of his ability. I was protected because of my ability. But I make sure like my kids, the clients that I coach, the people that I speak to that I coach, it's about your character. That's going to be number one.
Mm-hmm.
Other people might get their ability, you know, what they do, all that stuff is going to protect them for so long. And then all of a sudden, that shield might go down, and then they're going to want to know who you are.
Yeah.
I went on a job interview after I retired from the NFL. You know, I was bored, you know,
Sure.
playing golf, um, you know, working out whenever I wanted to, taking the kids to school. I had no worries, right? Um, and that got pretty boring pretty fast. And so I was like, man,
Hmm.
I want to do something else. I don't, I don't really have any purpose. What do I want to do? So I was like, you know what? I always volunteered. Whatever city I went to, I donated money to nonprofits and I volunteered. And I said, you know what? I'm gonna go into that. I'm thinking I'm gonna go into that. You know what? There's a entry level position at this nonprofit. I'm gonna apply, and they're gonna be lucky. I'm Alex
Hmm.
Molden. You know what I'm saying? NFL veteran, first round draft pick. You know, University of Oregon Hall of Famer. And I was up here in Portland, and I went for this job interview. And I did all my homework, answer all the questions about who they serve, the impact that they have, the different
Sure.
people and whatnot. I knew all that. And then everything just flipped because she started asking me questions about Alex.
Ooh.
And I didn't do my homework.
Oh
I mean,
man.
like, Alex, what drives you? Alex, what wakes you up in the morning? What do
Yeah.
you bring to the table that can help this organization?
Oh
And she
man.
kept going. And when she said that, what's your purpose?
Wow.
I had no answers. I said, I don't know. All those questions about me, I don't know. I never thought about that. Huh. I'm gonna have to get back to you on that. No. And then finally she said, Alex, sweetie, and this was a $45,000 job, entry
Hmm.
level. She said,
Hmm.
sweetie, you ain't gonna get this job. And she
Hmm.
said, let me give you a little bit of advice. Before you go on any more job interviews, you need to find out exactly who you are. Because right now you don't know who you are. Because you keep answering with what you did. She got
Wow.
up, shook my hand, walked me to the front door. In the driveway or in the parking lot, I cried. I wept,
Yeah.
banging my hands on the steering wheel, weeping.
Yeah.
And I've been cut before. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Like I've been released. Like you go into there and then you walk in, you think you got a job, and then they, see the GM, if you watch Hard Knocks, you know what it looks like.
Yes,
And they
sir.
say, oh, they walk you out and say, no, your service no longer needed. Thank you, man. Thank you very much. But we just contact your agent. You got your airplane ticket. Good luck. Happens like that.
Yeah. Wow.
Then you got two security guards walking down to your locker room. They get you a black trash bag. You put all your stuff in there, and then you out.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. Nothing like what I just told you about being told by somebody who just met you that you don't know who you are. It
Yeah.
changed my life.
Yeah.
So I did deep dive into who Alex is, and I put up standards where I didn't have them before.
Hmm.
So when you know who you are in every environment, when
Yeah.
you know who you are in every environment, I knew who I was on the football field. I didn't know who I was at home in the grocery store and all this. I really didn't. And so now, like the number one influencer for me is who people are.
Alex, I gotta just say thank you for sharing your entire story like that with us. I know that what you just described is something a lot of professional athletes go through, especially as they're transitioning out of their sport, which happens to everyone at some point. But it's also pretty applicable to folks that might find themselves in a career that they've been pursuing forever that they despise, that maybe they don't actually know why they're pursuing it themselves. I found myself in a very similar position in 2016 when I flamed out of the baseball industry and didn't know who I was without being able to say, "Hi, Stuart Krantz, New York Yankees. Nice to meet you." And I'd love for you, if you can, to maybe share a little bit about what that process of figuring out who Alex was looked
Mhm.
like, especially in the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, man, I wish I could have said, man, that next day everything changed. I wish I could say that.
Right, right.
I wish I can say that. But honestly, like that story that I just told, I buried that. I never wanted to relive that ever again. I didn't
Sure.
tell my wife that. I didn't like that was something that was crushing. And I never told that story.
Right.
But that started something clicking in me. Okay, I want to do something that I enjoy, that I can be myself, and I'm a playful type of cat, right?
Sure.
I want to I want to make an impact, something that, well, I want to get into something that I'm good at, and something maybe that the world needs. So one of the things is like, okay, what wakes me up? What gets me going? Like every morning, I get to go to work, not
Yeah.
I have to. And even football. For the longest part, I was like, man, I get to play football. My last 2 years, man, dang, I gotta go to practice. I got right. So
You're right.
things flame out. Things flame out, even professional athletes, right? But what am I good at? What's going to bring me joy? And what does the world need more of? The money
Mm,
part, that'll take care of itself. Because when I get good and then those different relationships, people start to see, and man, the money will come. The money
yeah.
will come. And so I started, man, just started doing, some deeper work on myself. And so I needed to go ahead and bite the bullet. And I hired a coach. I got a coach
Yeah.
that can help me see myself and help me like just like the coaches that what made me good is I was able to take coaching, so
Hmm.
people coaches would see me and how I moved at different angles and whatnot, and then their knowledge, and then they would share what they saw, and they've had success, right? So they would share those different things, and sometimes what I saw in myself was different than what they saw. I was very coachable. I knew I wasn't perfect,
Hmm.
right? And so I took that same mindset when I hired a coach to come and coach me to become, first of all, I wanted to be a speaker,
Yeah.
right? I wanted to be a speaker. And I saw him doing it. I said, can you help me do that? He said,
Hmm.
yeah. And then we started on Alex, not speaking, not the business part, not the, how to put together a website, your keynote. No, no. We worked on Alex. And then these
Yeah.
different stories start to come out. And man, now I start to be, man, I know I enjoy that.
Yeah.
Right. And at the time I was training athletes, young athletes. I worked at a Nike World headquarters. I was training the employees, the athletes that come on campus, and was able to travel the world.
Sure.
When I started doing more research on Alex, and and I had standards, rules, stuff that before I was like, no, yeah, I'm gonna go that way. Now, no, no, that doesn't work for me. I'm not gonna do that.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So good. So good. And maybe one last question on this subject. You had your moment where you were humbled, and we appreciate you for sharing that with us. Can you just speak into the humility overall that it takes for people to find themselves, like do this type of work for themselves and actually make a change in their lives?
Man, so one of the things that with me, my faith is my foundation. It didn't used to be like that.
Sure.
What came first for me for a lot of the years was my career.
Hmm.
That was number one. And that was number one. Number two was my family.
Yeah.
Number three was my hobbies. And number four was my faith.
Sure.
If I was being really honest,
Right.
and I felt stuck. Because if you think about it, if my career, or people's career, if you do the work, and if that's your foundation, What if that career falls away? What if it's taken from you?
Mhm.
And if that's your foundation, you might feel lost. What if family is number one? And it sounds great. What if family's number one? You're married, you have kids. Well, what happens when you get divorced and then
Yeah.
the family is broken and you're spending half the time mom's, other half of the time? If that's your foundation, that also, can be broken. You can feel lost with that when your faith is your foundation. Because my faith in knowing and what God has done in my life, like he's not going anywhere.
Amen.
He's not going anywhere. If I put that as my, so I used to talk like that, that's my foundation. And then this, that, and then I had a perspective because I had a conversation with the pastor and he said, Alex, what if you think of it like this? You have these different blocks, right? You have your health, you have your career, you have um, your faith, you have your hobbies, you have these things. No, not faith, but have your family, your health, your career, and then bubble wrap that in your faith. So now
Ooh,
anywhere you go, man, my faith follows me.
yes.
My faith is when he said that, I was like, oh, right. Because if we talk about foundations, man, well, what if I forget to pray? What if I didn't go to church last month? What if I
Yeah.
did that? And that's supposed to be your faith. Then how did that make you feel? Does it make faith like your foundational? But when you start to do that, and then it's bubble wrap. So that means I can go to church when I have conversations with a stew. I can go to church when I'm at the grocery store. I
Mhm.
don't have to come in with my Bible and beat my Bible. People can just see it, right?
Yeah.
So that was, when I looked at my foundation and my who Alex is, I had to go that deep because I learned that same principle on the football field. Our coach
Mhm.
was best coach I ever had, Willie Shaw. He said, if you want to play a long time in this league, you have to master these three things: assignment, alignment, and adjustment. You need to know your job. And
Yeah.
then if you really want to be good, you need to know others people's roles and jobs because they can all affect you, right?
Mhm.
When you play baseball, when you was a pitcher, did you have to know what the outfielder, what his jobs were, what his role was when the ball was hit to the right field? Did you know what the shortstop job was when the ball was hit to first base and there's a
Mhm.
man on third? Like, I don't know a whole bunch of baseball, but I know people do, and it's like chemistry when they say when the
Yeah.
ball is here, you got two on, but man, but when you know other people's roles, it
Yes.
makes you and the team better.
Yes.
But at a deeper level, when you know who you are, what your
Yeah.
purpose is, that's your assignment to know who you are. And then alignment. How do you align? How do you align? For me, if I was misaligned by half an inch, I was beat before the ball even was snapped.
Yeah.
If I was misaligned half an inch, I was already given an advantage to it. So I started to get really good at my alignment, right? And so it's the same thing. How do you align your life? Do you
Mhm.
align it on material things? Do you align it to your faith? Do you align it to, the hobbies? Do you, whatever, to money? How do you align your life?
Mhm.
And then the third part is adjustments, right? In football, man, I had to be ready for the different adjustments. Nobody, I promise you, nobody just stands up and hikes the ball. Watch it. At the pro level, there's going to be a check. There's going to be a check with me. There's going to be an audible. There's going to be a motion. There's going to be a shift. I need to be ready before all those things happen. I need to have a game plan on when things switch.
Mhm.
It's the same thing in life. I needed to develop a game plan when I needed to adjust the relationships that were around me when I
Mhm.
wanted to take myself to another level. And it first started with me. I need to adjust my own relationship with myself.
Yeah.
And then I need to You need to be able to be ready to make these different adjustments in how you speak to people, how I dressed, how I did. If I wanted to do this, I needed to adjust how I acted, how I spoke, all different things.
So good. We've talked a lot about creating the relational roadmap. It seems very evident by what you're describing here that the relational roadmap starts with you first. Is there any part of this that's missing that we maybe haven't covered for the folks listening?
Yeah, I think, when you understand leadership and influence, for me, it starts with who you are. And then another one, I think we talked a little bit about is relationships, right?
Yep.
The number one relationship is the most important one you have with yourself. But another part is intuition, like how you feel.
Okay.
I used to be like a robot. I wouldn't say a robot. I was like Spock. I didn't want to have any feelings. I didn't want to have any. But when you start to understand like how you feel, right? And people can use their words to make you feel a certain way. They can make you feel powerful. They can
Mm-hmm.
also make you feel like crap,
Mm-hmm.
right? Depending on who those words are coming from, right? And so I try to use intuition to move people.
Yeah.
I want to make them feel a certain way when they interact with me. I want them to feel inspired. I want to make them feel like, man, they can move mountains, like they can do anything. So I use intuition, I use words, I use different stories to make people feel inspired, right? When you tell people, when you own who you are, own your story, and you can be able to tell people at a depth and be vulnerable, like I was just a couple of minutes
Mm-hmm.
ago,
Mm-hmm.
and just give them a way out, man, they think they can be able to do those. And if I share with them those principles, man, they can take those same principles and apply it in their own lives. That's what I'm about. So, yeah.
That's so, so good. And folks, please do yourselves a favor, hit pause, rewind sections of this episode because Alex is here giving you the roadmap to really overhaul not only the relationships you have in your life, your relationship with yourself, and also who you be in the world, like actually how you are being in the world as a citizen, as somebody that has impact, has the ability to influence others. There's a lot of really valuable stuff being said on today's episode. Alex, I know we're going to start to run short of time here, but I want to squeeze in one more question. When you were sharing the story with us about having that humbling experience, going in for that job interview, having this person that, in a lot of ways, changed your life by being the catalyst to get you to start actually doing the work for yourself. You said one of the questions she asks is, who are you? What are you about? Now that you are 51, you have all this experience, you're raising your kids, you're coaching executives, you're speaking on stages, you are coaching football also on top of all of it.
Yeah.
What would you say the answer to that question is now?
Who I am,
Yeah.
who Alex Molden is someone who values relationships, they
Mm-hmm.
understand leadership. And for me to change the world, I want to change the world. I want to make this world a better place.
Mm-hmm.
It has to start at home.
Yes.
It needs to start at home. So, how I parent, I get a chance to practice what I preach,
Mm-hmm.
or I get to preach what I practice. And
Right.
so I hold them accountable. I create relationships. I get to know my kids and my wife at such a level that I can predict behavior, which is a superpower. When you
Yeah.
find out who people are, you can predict behavior and maybe you can get in front of it. before they make a decision that can change the trajectory of their life
Mm,
for the worse, right? So it starts at home. I hold my kids accountable. I ask them what their dreams and aspirations are. I also hold them accountable and make sure they take out the garbage and they come home and they do their homework and they be
mm,
kind when they're in this house and when they're outside. Be kind. You never know who is watching. Your
yes.
character is always on display, especially now in the age when everybody has one of these.
Yes.
So I make sure that they understand that and the impact that their words have, like who they are. It starts at home. So
Hmm.
the greatest compliment when people say, "Man, you have such great kids. Man, they're so well behaved. They work hard. They do this." Man, that's the biggest compliment. Not like, "Man, he scored 8 touchdowns. Man, that was magnificent. Woo!" And
Right.
thanks. You know, but who I am is somebody who wants to change this world, and it starts with, um, what I do in this house, what me and my wife, and then from there, conversations like this help expand, my overall goal. So that's who Alex Molden is.
Well, Alex, I want to take a moment to acknowledge you. I mean, we've been sitting here for about 40 minutes having this conversation. You've had a big impact on me today, bar none. And I know you're going to have an amazing impact on everyone who's going to listen to this episode. I keep saying final question, but this conversation is just so juicy. If anyone listening to this is questioning the impact that they can have, what would be the advice you would give to him or her?
When we start to live in just our failures, we can start to believe that that's just who we are. And on the flip side of that, when we start to just live in our successes and think that our poop don't stink and I'm gonna make all the right decisions. There's danger in both of those. So what I suggest is when you're failing, you're not getting the job promotion, you're um, things at home aren't working out like that. Always remember those times when things were great. They're
Hmm.
not too far away. And on the flip side, you have successes. You're doing everything right. Things are coming your way. You're getting followers. You're getting downloads. You're getting this, that. And you got to always think about in the beginning or when there was failure, right? Both of them can teach us.
Yes.
Both of them, they keep you. That's one of the things I stay humble. I know what it's like. I know what it's like to be on top of the world. But I also remember when you don't know who you are and you're in the parking lot crying your eyes out. So not to live in failure and not to just live in success, but be ready for any and everything. It takes a certain type of character to be that type of person. So, and I also believe in this is going to school on other people's tuition. I learned a lot from watching other people have success, but also failure. That's one of the reasons
Yes.
I was able to do as good as I did in football. It wasn't just I got coaching, is I watched others in front of me and I watched them have success. And when they failed, and I listened to the coaching and I applied
Hmm.
those same principles to my life. So I got double coaching and I
Yeah.
didn't have to pay tuition.
This conversation could keep going and going and going,
I
but we
know.
are we are going to have to bring it to an end. Alex, we haven't even like delve into your book or your podcast or anything like that. Where can the listeners connect with you, learn more from you, what you're up to, take the conversation offline?
Cool. Yeah. And just go to alexmolden.com. You got to alexmolden.com has all my information there. My podcast, my books. I just dropped my second book, Breaking on the Ball of Life, which helps individuals make better decisions. And when the decisions you make don't go your way, Like, how do you repurpose them? So, yeah, just alexmolden.com to get more of me.
Yep. And folks, as always, all of Alex's contact info will be in the show notes below wherever you are catching this episode. And Alex, as we get ready to sign off, final question. What are you acknowledging yourself for today?
Oh man, I'm acknowledging myself for being, especially, I had the longest day yesterday. I
Sounds
had
like
the
it.
no, no, honestly, I had the longest day. Like my flight left Portland at 5:15. So that means I had to wake up at 3:45 a.m.
Sure.
to make it out to Utah and everything. And then my flight was delayed and all of that stuff. I didn't get home, head to bed until 12:30. And then our son, our fifth grader, um had a it was a breakfast, a pancake breakfast fundraising
Mm-hmm.
event. And I had to wake up at 6:30.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing that I've learned, and I told myself this a long time ago, is that where I want to go, the goals that I have, and back then it was playing football. I wanted to get a
Mm-hmm.
scholarship. I want to just play football. I want to use this vehicle to take me places. And I found a long time ago because people would let me down. And I would feel hurt and crushed and all this type of stuff that not everybody wanted the same thing as me. I
Mm-hmm.
was committed. I knew what discipline is. My dad was a drill sergeant in the U.S. Army. I know what discipline looks like, and I would get my feelings hurt. So I made up a decision in my mind that my goals don't care about how I feel. Most people get caught into, man, I don't feel like doing this. I'm not going to do it. Man, I don't feel like doing it. What if my goal was to get athletic scholarship? And a lot of time it was cold in Colorado
Yeah.
in January and February. It's
Yes, sir.
lonely. Lifting weights is lonely. My goals don't care about how I felt. I still need to get the job done. I apply that. And even though I didn't get enough sleep, I was tired. I'm still tired. Is I still need to show up because I know that my son, I want to have that relationship. I want him to see me doing things with him, you know, like that, going to pancake breakfast. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm very grateful that that same discipline that helped me create a legacy that I'm getting all choked up. Um, that discipline, I apply it in different areas, but we all have the ability. And it takes a choice.
Yeah. Alex, I just want to acknowledge you again just for being probably the most real person I've had on the show. And I think that what you're doing today, just showing up not only for the people listening, but your family, the way that you do is really beautiful, and it's just something we can all look up to, like truly. And even just from one man to another, I could have made up a lot of stories today about why is this ex NFL player going to want to come on my show, but like you showing up as raw and real as you are, showing us that you're a human being just like the rest of us, and that you really do care, and that your heart is in everything you do for the right reasons, is something absolutely all of us can aspire to be better at. And so I just want to truly thank you for being here today. I meant it when I said you've impacted me today, and I know the listeners are going to be impacted as well. And truly, brother, I hope that this is the just the beginning of a friendship, of a relationship. Would love to pour into you as much as you've poured into us today, if I can.
Oh, well, Stu, I appreciate that, my man. I appreciate that. Yeah, we'll make sure, man, that we stay connected. And yeah, man, I love to be on again sometime.
Yeah, 100%. And